I did want to ask you about your worker summit that you had recently, the Worker Voice Summit this last fall. Can you share a little bit about that, and how did that help you personally hear the worker voice?
So the Worker Voice Summit was the first time that we have had frontline workers in the Francis Perkins Building, in the Department of Labor, at a summit talking about their personal experiences. We've certainly had representatives of unions and workers, and we've certainly had plenty of meetings with employers and employer associations. But this was the first time at a scale we had workers from across the country come here to be heard by the leadership of OSHA, to tell their stories, and to talk about some of the things that they would like to see us do better. We had a woman from Mississippi talk about how her nephew, who was in college, had come home for a break and was put in a facility without any training, working on an assembly or a conveyor line, and had his arm crushed. She talked about the problem of job steering, how Black workers were being steered into jobs that were dirtier and were less safe, and that they simply weren't given the opportunity to apply for other higher quality, higher skilled positions, or if they did, they were steered towards these other positions. And what was interesting was how she framed that race issue as a health and safety issue. We had workers talking about their immigration status and how it prevented them from speaking up, and how it increased the likelihood that they were to be exploited by their employers. And again, they framed it as a health and safety issue. We had nurses talking about staffing levels and violence in the workplace, but also the psychological impact on them from this environment, and how it cascaded into other aspects of their work with patients and their health and safety program. And again, they framed it as a health and safety issue. So what struck me about these and many other comments from the Worker Voice Summit was how, we as professionals talk about, total worker health. And it's so intuitive to these workers. They get it, they understand it, they see the connections because they live the connections between these various social determinants and these various social factors and the health and safety that they experience on the job. And I have to admit that I thought back during the summit to times that I've had similar discussions with workers where I turned off because they were talking about something that wasn't in my jurisdiction. They weren't talking about something that had a standard. They weren't talking about a traditional health and safety issue. I think it's a lesson for everyone that we can't turn off when we hear things just because it's not on our list of things that are important to us when it comes to health and safety. We have to be open to those conversations and open to dialogue about the connections and seeing the connections that these workers live, so that we can do more to engage with them and to have a stronger and more comprehensive health and safety management program that is not incomplete and acknowledges that it goes much broader than putting guards on machines.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up. I think we're all on a journey there of understanding that if a person doesn't feel safe at work, that they can't bring their voice, or they feel like they have been put into a job perhaps because of who they are, all of those things weigh on them and indeed do make them less safe.